How avoidants test you when they want you in their life. If you've ever dealt with someone who has an avoidant attachment style, you know how confusing their behavior can be. One moment they seem close, even interested, and the next they pull back, creating distance that leaves you questioning everything. But here's something most people miss. When an avoidant actually wants you in their life, they don't always say it directly. Instead, they test you, not in a playful or lighthearted way, but in subtle psychological ways that reveal whether you're safe for them, whether you'll respect their independence, and whether you can handle the intimacy they both crave and fear. Understanding these tests can mean the difference between misinterpreting their actions as rejection and recognizing them as signs that you matter more than they want to admit. The first way avoidants test you is through distance. They'll pull back, go silent, or suddenly become less available. Not because they've lost interest, but because they're watching how you respond. To them, love has always been dangerous. It feels like closeness equals loss of freedom. So when they create space, they want to see if you'll chase desperately or if you'll hold steady. If you panic, beg, or pressure them, it confirms their fear that intimacy will swallow them. But if you stay calm, grounded, and continue living your life, they start to feel something powerful: safety. They realize that being close to you won't mean losing themselves. That test, though frustrating, is one of their most common ways of deciding if you're worth keeping in their world. Another way they test you is by sharing small vulnerabilities, but not in obvious ways. An avoidant might drop a passing comment about their past, a hidden insecurity, or a subtle fear, and then carefully watch your reaction. They want to know, will you judge them? Will you smother them with pity? Or will you treat their honesty with respect, holding space for their truth without making it a dramatic event? If you can respond with calm acceptance, without overanalyzing or overreacting, they see you as different. They see you as someone who won't weaponize their vulnerability. And for an avoidant, that realization is rare and priceless. The third test is about boundaries. Avoidants value independence above almost everything else. So they'll test you by asserting their need for space or alone time. This might look like canceling plans, spending long hours by themselves, or telling you outright that they need personal freedom. What they're really doing is checking whether you'll respect their boundaries or try to bulldoze through them. If you respect their need for independence while still showing you're emotionally available, you pass the test. You prove to them that love doesn't have to feel like prison. It can feel like freedom with connection. That's when they begin to trust you with deeper commitment. Avoidants also test you through conflict, or more specifically, through your reaction to conflict. Many avoidants grew up in environments where emotions were overwhelming, unpredictable, or unsafe. So when tension arises in a relationship, they might withdraw, become defensive, or even act cold to see how you'll handle it. If you explode, criticize, or demand constant answers, you confirm their belief that emotions equal chaos. But if you handle disagreements with steadiness, patience, and respect, they slowly learn that conflict doesn't have to destroy connection. In fact, you become the exception to their old rule. You become the person who can disagree without abandoning them. And that's exactly what makes them start seeing you as someone they want long-term. One of the more subtle tests avoidants use is what I call the emotional breadcrumb test. They'll give you just a small dose of affection, maybe a thoughtful gesture, a rare compliment, or a vulnerable text, and then they'll wait. They want to see how you handle that little piece of closeness. Will you cling to it, demand more, or pressure them to keep it coming? Or will you appreciate it without smothering them? When you show gratitude for their effort without demanding constant repetition, you reassure them. You prove that you can handle love in small steps, which is exactly the pace they need to feel safe enough to deepen the bond. Avoidance may also test your consistency. They often expect people to leave when things get hard, because deep down, they fear abandonment. So they'll sometimes act cold, distant, or even push you away. Not to reject you, but to see if you'll actually stay consistent. If you give up at the first sign of difficulty, they'll believe they were right all along. Closeness isn't safe. But if you maintain steady warmth and boundaries, showing that you care without overchasing, they slowly start to believe that this time it's different, that this time They found someone who won't run at the first storm. Another test is about independence. Avoidants are attracted to people who have their own lives, their own passions, and their own strength. So they'll watch how much of your identity exists outside of the relationship. Do you have goals, friendships, and hobbies that make you fulfilled? Or do you revolve your entire existence around them? If it's the latter, they'll pull away because it confirms their fear that commitment means suffocation. But if they see you thriving independently while still choosing to share yourself with them, they feel something rare: admiration. That admiration is one of the strongest triggers for avoidance to stay and invest more deeply. Avoidants also test your emotional regulation. They might say something distant, act indifferent, or even trigger jealousy on purpose. Not because they're cruel, but because they want to see if you'll spiral. To them, emotional stability equals safety. If you overreact, lash out, or lose control, they retreat. But if you hold your center, even when you're hurt, they respect you more than you realize. You show them that you can love without losing yourself, and that's the kind of partner an avoidant secretly craves, even if they never admit it. One of the most challenging tests avoidants put you through is time. They delay commitment. They take longer to define the relationship, longer to fully open up, and longer to trust. To many people, this feels like rejection. But in reality, it's often a test. They're watching to see if you'll stay patient without losing your standards. The person who proves they can give the avoidant both time and boundaries is often the person who finally breaks through their walls. Commitment comes slowly, but once it arrives, it's far more solid than most people think. And finally, avoidants test your willingness to walk away. This may sound contradictory, but it's the ultimate test. They want to know if you're strong enough to respect yourself, even if it means leaving them. If you stay no matter how poorly they treat you, they won't value you. But if you hold your boundaries firmly, showing that you'll choose them, but never at the cost of your self-respect, they see you as someone different. That realization often sparks their deepest commitment because they know they can't take you for granted. The truth is, when an avoidant wants you in their life, their tests aren't meant to torture you. They're meant to protect them. They've been conditioned to see love as dangerous, so they test to find proof that it's safe. If you understand this, you won't take their test personally. Instead, you'll see them as signs that they're actually invested in you. Signs that they're trying to figure out if you're the rare person they can finally let in. So if you find yourself being tested by an avoidant, remember this: your calmness, your boundaries, and your independence are the answers they're searching for. You don't have to beg, chase, or prove yourself. You only need to show that love with you is freedom, not suffocation. And when they finally realize that, their walls don't just crack, they crumble. That's when an avoidant stops testing you and starts choosing you for life.